Let's get to
And here's the
Donald Trump's insane speech last night, which was just a rehashing of virtually all of his Truth Social posts, wrapped up in a nice little 18-minute speech. Okay, so last night Donald Trump delivered the State of the Union, and everyone was expecting him to make a new revelation here. He did not. He basically just summarized all of his Truth Social posts, and that was it. So let's take a look at the playback reel of the Trump victory speech.
President of the United States.
Thank you very much. My fellow Americans, good evening. Let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis II. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people. We want to God bless those four unbelievable astronauts. As we speak this evening, it's been just 1 month since the United States military began Operation Epic Fury, targeting the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran. In these past 4 weeks,
I'm waiting for him to accidentally say Epstein's Fury. I believe in my heart that it will happen at some point. Also, one thing that I noticed, because I was listening to this while I was waiting to deliver my speech in the conference room that I was in, he was very winded. Like, he just seems tired. He seems out of it, you know? Labored breaths. He's angry. It's late. It's late for him. Kind of feels like he just doesn't want to do this at all.
Our armed forces have delivered swift, decisive, overwhelming victories on the battlefield. Victories like few people have ever seen before. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is in ruins. Their leaders, most of them, terrorist regime they led, are now dead. Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. Our enemies are losing, in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before. Before discussing this current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did in taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world. After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world. And now we're...
Yeah, so strong, and yet we cannot defend our allies. We cannot defend any of the countries that are oil-rich countries that give us trillions of dollars in investment in exchange for purchasing our weapons at a comfortable price point. Yeah, strongest military of all time, and yet, once again, has been taking L after L for the past 33 days now. Strongest military of all time, and yet we need an additional $200 billion to up our defense capabilities, our offensive capabilities. Strongest military of all time, yet we've utilized a quarter of our Tomahawk missile launchers. I don't know. It's kind of hard to make this argument, I feel like.
Working along with Venezuela and are in a true sense joint venture partners. We're getting along incredibly well. in the production and sale of massive amounts of oil and gas, the second largest reserves on Earth after the United States of America. We're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents. This situation has been going.
Yeah, no one has ever seen numbers like the ones that the Iranian regime has slaughtered. Numbers always swinging wildly in every direction, and now it's 45,000. Last week he was saying it was 30. Sometimes he'd say it's 50. Now he's saying it's 45,000. Also, what's interesting about this, I mean, obviously the numbers are utterly irrelevant for these people. They're just trying to justify, bombing Iran in this weird, distorted, totally twisted manner where it's like, oh yeah, we're saving the Iranian people from the government by killing Iranian people, right? But every other part of this story, which is supposed to be a justification for why they're bombing Iran, is also ridiculous. Father of the roadside bomb, Qasem Soleimani, it's bullshit. He also brings up the fact that he destroyed the JCPOA, which is ironic because the JCPOA was a resounding success in terms of developing diplomatic relations with Iran. It totally undermined the hawkish posture that we had towards Iran. All of a sudden, there was actually success in terms of undermining the nuclearization initiatives, like the nuclear proliferation that Iran was engaging in, which obviously, if you're being sincere, if you're looking at the situation, as far as like the nuclear proliferation of Iran, you understand that their enrichment process was simply to gain leverage so they could get sanctions relief. It wasn't actually a sincere attempt to develop a nuclear weapon, right? Every single thing that he's brought up are Foundation for Defending Democracy talking points, copied and pasted. Foundation for Defending Democracy is a Benjamin Netanyahu's personal think tank in Washington, D.C. And it's all totally bullshit. But of course, because American politics is very stupid, American politicians are very stupid, and unfortunately many Americans are very stupid, you can just kind of lie about this sort of stuff and people just listen to it and go, yeah, I believe it. And even those who don't believe it don't actually know what the truth is. They just don't believe it because it's Donald Trump saying it, which is unfortunate, but I guess you got to work with what you have, right? Ultimately, it's a spectacular failure. Someone in the chat says, I honestly wonder if Hirsch is a Mossad asset after all. What good is a nuclear deterrence that people don't know about? He publicized this shit for Israel. You're out of your mind. Calling Seymour Hirsch a Mossad asset is insane. Put some respect on it. Cy Hirsch is the GOAT. Hey, Hasan, I think you called it on Tucker Carlson running in 2028. I just listened to a Vox interview and his rhetoric sounded intriguing. Even the interviewer point blank asked him if he was going to run for president, and his sheepish denial did not sound convincing. If Tucker Carlson doesn't actually run for president in 2028, he's going to offer a massive platform and legitimacy in the anti-Israel slant, the anti-war slant to whoever actually does run. That's the goal for Tucker Carlson. That's the role he will play. Either he will personally run for president or he will give the established legitimacy that he has, the credibility that he has as a true anti-war voice to whoever runs for president. I personally think it will be him, but others think it could be J.D. Vance or maybe Marco Rubio. Who knows?
On for 47 years and should have been handled long before I arrived in office. I did many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons by Iran first, and perhaps most importantly, I killed General Qasem Soleimani.
What's really interesting also about Donald Trump bringing up the Iranian regime's death toll, right? They killed 45,000, he says. He ends the speech by talking about how he's going to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age. So even in this 18-minute window, he's totally inconsistent about liberating the Iranian people. He can't even hold on to this idea of false liberation narratives for long enough, right? It's totally ridiculous.
In my first term, he was an evil genius, brilliant person, a horrible human being, however, the father of the roadside bomb. And he lived just horrible what he did. Iran would have been perhaps in far better, stronger position. Had he lived, we would have had probably a different conversation tonight. But you know what? We'd still be winning and winning big. And then very importantly, I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster.
Didn't you predict that Tucker Carlson would be forgotten when he left Fox? He was. The problem is Tucker Carlson is a cockroach. He was forgotten. He was left behind. But he expertly positioned himself as a lone heterodox thinker on the right and became the guy that people go to for anti-Israel sentiment, for anti-war sentiment, for the Republicans and for those who have enmity towards migrants and believe in, white nationalist rhetoric and white nationalist ideals that were also true isolationists. So for the longest time, he was actually forgotten, but then he carved out a space for himself and totally leaned into the popular momentum around anti-Israel sentiment, anti-war sentiment, and he was able to win back that audience slowly but surely. He also was able to successfully use his previous influence and previous credibility as an insider to secure a bunch of high-profile interviews where he dismantled the unconvincing pro-Israel arguments from some of the most rabid ultra-Zionists we've ever seen, Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz. All of those things build on this momentum. So he was able to carve back influence. Now, I don't know how influential Tucker Carlson still is amongst the right. Okay? I don't know, because when you look at the MAGA cult, it's not like they have any, it's not like the MAGA cult personally have any negative feelings about going to war with Iran. The MAGA cult has been 100% on board, right? So I don't know if Tucker Carlson is actually convincing Republican voters necessarily. I think it's more damaging than that. I think Tucker Carlson's new audience is actually not comprised of right-wingers, but of independents, centrists, and liberals. I think he's changed his lane. quite a bit. A lot of normies who don't actually bracket themselves into any ideological lane, who say stuff like, I'm apolitical, they watch Tucker Carlson. They like Tucker Carlson. They see him as an honest voice. This is very dangerous. And it would not exist if, for example, the Democratic Party was the party that people went to for a true anti-war perspective. No one would pay attention to Tucker Carlson if the Democratic Party wasn't spending every single day attacking people like myself, anti-war voices on the left. Have some conversations with your liberal coworkers, and you'll very quickly realize that many of them actually don't have any negative association with Tucker Carlson. They probably like Tucker Carlson, lifelong Democrats. Trust me on this.
Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash. Took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had. He flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president and went on with their mission to have a nuclear bomb. His Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran, and they would have had them years ago, and they would have used them. Would have been a different world. There would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of great experts, had I not terminated that terrible deal. And I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad right from the beginning. Essentially, I did what no other president was willing to do. They made mistakes, and I am correcting them. My first preference was always the path of diplomacy, yet the regime continued their relentless quest for nuclear weapons and rejected every attempt at an agreement. For this reason, in June, I ordered a strike on Iran's key nuclear facilities, an Operation Midnight Hammer. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Those beautiful B-2 bombers performed magnificently. We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and
all of this stuff is fake. I mean, it's for an administration that's led by a guy who successfully convinced people that he was going to be a different, not neocon style Republican, who convincingly told all of his voters, his entire base, that Republicans and Democrats both had lied about WMDs to go to war with Iraq, and how big of a defeat that was. He's doing that over and over again. When he says the Iranian nuclear capabilities were emboldened, it's a WMD lie. Okay, it's not true. When he says that ripping apart the JCPOA was successful, ripping apart the JCPOA was actually a good thing as far as like denuclearizing Iran, also wrong. When he says that all of the people that he's killed and the Iranian capacities is diminished, also a lie. Also, this doesn't get people to support the war because the U.S. started it. This is bad PR to try to get manufacturer consent. Yeah, I just don't understand. I genuinely cannot understand what Donald Trump was trying to accomplish with this speech, because this is just a rehashing of all of the other Truth Social posts that he's made leading up to this moment. And they made a big show of it, right? Like Trump delivers a State of the Union, a presidential address to the nation, and all of the other, all the TV networks are playing this, right? The expectation is that he comes out and explains that he's going to either retreat or double down. And I don't think he gave people that at all. Most people, myself included, I listened to this last night. My takeaway was that I still don't understand where we're going. There's always a strategy behind even the inconsistency in the narratives, chatters. I suspect that this one was to calm the markets, I guess. Like to tell the markets that he is actually retreating, right? To try and manipulate the markets further because it's very clear that that's what the markets want. They're desperate for a retreat. But even then, it had the opposite effect. Oil still went up.
In virtually any other place on earth, Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible. And they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And their race for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, but in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes. As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, Iran's Navy is like go-fast boats and jet skis, and it hasn't been thoroughly dismantled. Like the Iranian Navy assets that they've blown up are utterly irrelevant. They don't control the Strait of Hormuz with their Navy. They control the Strait of Hormuz with their missiles and specifically their drones. And the real question here is, or the real assessment here in terms of deteriorating Iran's capabilities of controlling the Strait of Hormuz can only be seen with the tankers that are crossing the Strait of Hormuz. If the tankers that are crossing the Strait of Hormuz still, to this day, are Chinese flag tankers and tankers that are paying a toll to the Iranian government, that means the American government has not been able to successfully attrit the Iranian capabilities. This is just bullshit. This is self-soothing narratives that the war effort is actually going well when, calm minds engaging in sober analysis can actually see that the truth is the exact opposite of the way Trump presents it. All the while, there's a allegation that yet another advanced enemy fighter jet was taken out near Keshem Island. The statement says the aircraft crashed into the waters between Keshem and Hangam Island. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what kind of plane this is. It looks like an A-10. That's what people are saying. We will find out soon enough. Best summary of what you're saying. Leaked video shows Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz. Okay.
Hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that
this part is true. Everyone is talking about American military capabilities, just not in the way that Trump thinks they're talking about it, right? I think a lot of people are reconsidering the American force projection capabilities. I do believe that. We've been talking about it quite a bit here on the broadcast. A lot of people are tuning in to hear what, Mersheimer has to say about this on independent outlets. It's just not one that favors the United States of America and its force projection power. So I guess he's half right on that one.
These core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I've traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil, and I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands. We salute them, and now we must honor them by...
They died in the most honorable way possible, for the most honorable goal. They died for Israel, my beautiful, my pretty, my sweet Israel, the most important country on the planet.
Completing the mission for which they gave their lives, and every single one of the people, their loved ones said, please, sir, please finish the job, every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar.
Can you clarify the money Obama gave to Iran? Wasn't it frozen funds? Yes. As the hegemonic superpower, the United States of America has the capabilities of freezing assets when Iran, as a sovereign state, trades with another sovereign state. That is what it was. When Donald Trump is talking about Barack Obama sending pallets of cash to Iran, what he's actually saying is one of the outcomes of the JCPOA was to unfreeze some of the Iranian assets for stolen oil, or for sold oil. Iran sold oil to some countries. Joe Biden had done something similar as well, which is to unfreeze some of the stolen Iranian assets for oil that was sold to other countries.
The UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain, they've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat. You all know that. We built the strongest economy in history. We're going through it right now, the strongest in history. In 1 year, we've taken a dead and crippled country. I hate to say that, but we were a dead and crippled country.
I don't think you hate saying America was crippled under Joe Brandon or under Obama. I mean, that's kind of what you did twice. It's your number one thing that you say. Also, the economy is the hottest from the standpoint of heat. I mean, totally. Everyone's feeling it. Everyone's feeling how great it is.
After the last administration, and made it the hottest country anywhere in the world by far, with no inflation, record-setting investments coming into the United States, over $18 trillion, and the highest stock market ever, with 53 all-time record highs in just 1 year. It all positioned us to get rid of a cancer that has long simmered. It's known as the nuclear Iran, and they didn't know what was coming. They've never imagined it. Remember, because of our Drill Baby Drill program, America has plenty of gas. We have so much gas. Under my leadership, we are #1 producer of oil and gas on the planet, without even discussing the millions of barrels that we're getting from Venezuela. Because of the Trump administration's policies, we produce more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Think of that, Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And that number will soon be substantially higher than that. There's no country like us anywhere in the world, and we're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait, and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. Number one, buy oil from the United States of America.
This is the most important part. As I've explained to you before, taking Venezuela for its oil was seemingly a silly thing, right? Because America's an oil exporter, and in order to maintain price stability, sitting on top of the second or the largest natural oil reserves would have meant that the price of a barrel would go down if America actually supplied too much oil, right? If they refined too much oil, the price of a barrel will go beneath $60 a barrel, and therefore a lot of these like smaller fracking companies in the United States of America, which make up the backbone of the American industry, the American extraction industry, would not have been able to sell at a profit, and they would have to, close up shop. It wasn't just to screw Cuba. And at the time I said, no one will ever, no capitalist has ever said, oh, free oil, I hate that, right? Even though The Economist was writing about it and all these other, analysts, all these commodities traders were saying, this seems really stupid. This is not beneficial. This is not for oil. Even though Donald Trump was like, no, this is for oil. Well, now we know, right? He's basically telling Europe that he fucked over to purchase oil and gas from the United States of America, purchase more oil and gas from the United States of America. All of the other allies around the world that rely on the Strait of Hormuz for their energy needs should now get it from the United States of America instead. Price stability will come from U.S. overproducing oil now in order to make up for the lack of supply while demands rise. However, I don't think we have the logistical capabilities of rerouting to make up for 20% of the entire planet's needs. I don't think we have the refinement capabilities of building up the oil supply. So I don't know how we're going to achieve this goal, but basically it feels like that's what Donald Trump is spelling out here. Something that I suspected as like the only reasonable, only logical long-term goal here is the destruction of the GCC, diminishing GCC's capabilities of providing energy for the rest of the world, just destroying it altogether, and then making America one of the only countries on the planet that has the capabilities of supplying much needed oil to the rest of the world. Having said that, however, the runway for such a significant change would probably take up years and a shit ton of investment. I don't know if we have that capability at all. Lemon AI literally said that yesterday, and you said it was crazy and they couldn't refine it. Stole my whole flow word for word, bar for bar. When I said that yesterday, you said I was crazy. Chatter, I don't know if you recall this conversation, but you literally said, I said that initially. Why am I going back on it? Okay? That was my assessment initially. I'm still telling you that just because it's a fucking goal that the administration has doesn't mean that they're capable of achieving said goal. Is it hard for you to comprehend? The Gulf is profoundly important for maintaining the petrodollar, okay? It's kind of like this. If you say so, big dog, hi chat. Brother, your fucking chat logs are right here. Your chat logs are right here. We had this conversation yesterday. Jesus Christ. It's kind of like Liberation Day, okay? It's, as a matter of fact, it's exactly like Liberation Day. There's a logical goal for why Donald Trump wants to engage in trade protectionism. He wants to build up the American manufacturing base. This is a national security problem for America if America wants to engage in a more aggressive posture against China. Okay? That's the goal. That's the stated objective of Liberation Day, to force the rest of the world, to force all of our trading partners to decouple from China, the manufacturing base of the entire planet. Okay? The problem, however, is that just because you have a goal doesn't mean you have the capabilities of reaching said goal. This problem is the exact same. Okay? The goal is to decouple from China in terms of trade, and to force all of our other partners to decouple from China, and then rebuild the American industrial base. But we don't have the capacity to have an industrial base at all. We don't have the initiative. We don't have the capacity. We don't have a command economy. We don't have any central planning beyond subsidies that we offer. So just because he sets a target for himself doesn't mean he's going to achieve it. And he hasn't been able to achieve that at all. Okay? And the same thing is happening here. He might want to gain leverage over China, as China still controls the refinement of all of the rare earth minerals that are necessary for our defense production, necessary for all production, as a matter of fact. All the components that we still use in our industrial output is still, at some point, all the rare earth minerals that are refined are still coming from China. They have a complete monopoly over it. And we want to have some kind of leverage against China, because if China were to implement export controls, if, let's say, we went to war with China and China said, all right, we're adding export controls to all of our rare earth minerals, the magnets that you need to build your bombs, all of a sudden you can't build bombs. What are you going to do? How are you going to fight China with no bombs? We've already depleted our munitions, right? So in a situation like that, America has to have some kind of leverage against China to ensure that China doesn't do that. And that leverage would be oil. But right now, China has developed its own relations with the Gulf states. China has its own direct relations with the Gulf states. So the American bargain here, the American gamble here, is maybe to think, all right, we just destroy the Gulf in its entirety. We reduce their capabilities. And we shut off the oil and gas faucet in the Gulf by way of Israel, so that we are the sole providers of oil and gas to the rest of the world. Okay? The problem is, we run into the same issue. Do we have the capabilities to make up for the lack of supply? Especially in the short term, without imminent global collapse? I don't think so. I don't think we do. That's my argument. Just because they have an agenda, just because they have a goal, doesn't mean they have the capabilities of achieving said goal. Do you understand? I've been trying to explain this for the past month.
We have plenty. We have so much. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the strait and just take it. Protect it. Use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought, but we had to take that little journey to Iran to get rid of this horrible threat. With our historic tax cuts, where people are just now talking about receiving larger refunds than they ever thought possible. They are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. Our economy is strong and improving by the day, and it will soon be roaring back like Never before. It will top the levels that it was a month ago. I've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are.
Yeah, there's this other problem here as well, because countries no longer have to think about whether or not they create energy independence for themselves by way of renewables, which are, once again, produced almost entirely the systems necessary, solar panels and all of the other components necessary to build a robust energy grid that focuses on renewable energy come from China, right? So a big point of contention at Davos and all these other summits that were, that were happening in the build up to Trump taking Venezuela and then waging war against Iran. A big point of contention from the American side always was constantly telling Europe, don't move towards green energy. Do not move towards green energy. You will not be able to develop energy dominance that way. You're just going to increase your reliance on China this way. It's very stupid, right? That only works if there's stability. That only works if there's no disruptions in the oil and gas side of things. If there's no disruption in the delivery of oil and gas to Europe and to the Asian markets. Now Donald Trump has basically presented the argument that there is no stability, or they will be entirely reliant on the United States of America providing oil and gas. Europe already experienced a piece of that with the Russia war against Ukraine, where they gained independence from their reliance on Russian gas, Russian oil. And they celebrated that decision, even though that decision led to much more expensive energy prices, a crisis that was boiling up. And now it's gotten significantly worse. So Donald Trump has basically proven that if countries want to have energy independence, they have to move away from their reliance on fossil fuels. True energy sovereignty comes from renewables. So now, competent governments are probably going to go to China and demand more help. They're going to purchase more solar panels. They're going to try to create a robust renewable energy grid for themselves. Many countries were already moving in that direction, right? So ironically enough, this still takes away from the power that America has around the world, because petroleum is traded on the dollar. This undermines, like the more Donald Trump undermines the petrodollar, the more Donald Trump undermines American hegemony. The other side of the story, of course, is that American hegemony and the confidence that people have in American stability is propped up by the might of the American military. And Donald Trump is destroying that notion as well. So it's a spectacular failure in every way that you can see. Every aspect that has every aspect of this design, this new world order post World War II, and certainly post the end of the Cold War, is currently falling apart. Donald Trump is most responsible for the acceleration of American demise here. And I mean, he's doing this like he is the this is the reason why we say he's J.D. Pondon, right? He is the brave anti-imperialist voice.
Fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military.
Fake as fuck. HasanAbi, do you enjoy being fake as fuck? Independent media fucking joke. Is it truly only independent media if you're dick eating the president? Is that how you can be a true independent media voice? Is that what it is? I mean, I'm not just getting yelled at by Republicans. I'm getting yelled at by Democrats as well on a daily fucking basis. Even a dumb guy such as yourself could probably understand that means that I'm definitely independent from at least the duopoly.
Military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously.
Insane. This is the quote-unquote supposed leader of the free world openly saying in a presidential address to the nation that he is going to commit acts of terrorism. He has already committed acts of terrorism, and he's going to do more of it. That's what he's saying to people, right? He's saying we're going to hit civilian targets. He's saying we're going to bomb this country back into the Stone Age. Peace president. Right? No new wars, they said. It's unbelievable. What happened to liberating the Iranian people, by the way? You know? What happened to peace president? Peace president Donald Trump? What happened to I'm not dying for Israel? What happened to no new wars? It was all a lie, of course. And I said it was going to be a lie. Anyone could see it. Anyone with 3 working brain cells could see it from a mile away. If only we had a, serious opposition party that presented themselves as the actual anti-war party instead of saying Iran is our number one enemy, is our number one threat. Shouts out to Kamala Harris for saying that. And also simultaneously saying that I'm going to oversee the most lethal military anyone's ever seen. Shouts out to Kamala Harris for saying that too. So that Donald Trump could lie and present himself as this peace president somehow and make a convincing case. Fantastic.
We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective. American involvement in World War I lasted 1 year.
Yeah, this part's really funny. This is where he tries to say, this is technically not a war because it's short, right? Comparing your current military incursion, your current war to World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, fantastic. Anyway, yeah, he ends the speech basically by saying we have to do something about the Iran nuclear capabilities, and then saying that he's going to bomb Iran back into the Stone Age, which again, and then openly says he's going to target civilian infrastructure, the energy grid, things of that nature, which they've started doing already. They blew up I mean, this is a war crime. They blew up a bridge. Trump posts video of the strike on Iran's biggest bridge and tells Iran to make a deal before it's too late. A highway bridge linking Iran's capital, Tehran, to the western city of Karaj was hit by airstrikes on Thursday, Fars News reported, adding that early indications suggest several people were injured. The biggest bridge in Iran comes tumbling down, never to be used again. Much more to follow. It is time for Iran to make a deal before it's too late. And there's nothing left of what still could become a great country. This is a war crime. That's it. That's what it is. And the reason why they're doing this is because this is the Gaza method, right? When you can't achieve your military objectives, your stated military objectives, and in Gaza, Israel didn't actually have a real stated military objective beyond ethnic cleansing, you just start hitting civilian targets. You just start murdering people. You just start slaughtering people, destroying all the civil society organizations. You destroy schools. You blow up the energy infrastructure. You make the land uninhabitable, right? That's what they're doing. It's a classic war crime, okay? It's precisely what's going on. You know that this war cannot be won, right? You can't achieve any of your objectives here. So now you're just indiscriminately targeting the civilian infrastructure across all of the major cities in Iran. This is the Israel method. It's the America method as well. And that's precisely what they're doing. And in the absence of an international organ of justice that can bring America to heel, in the absence of pressure coming from American allies and trading partners, in the absence of reining America and Israel in, of course they're going to do this, right? Who's going to say no? Who's going to say you have to stop this? We've already seen what happens when no one abides by the rules of warfare, right? You end up looking like Israel, crying about cluster munitions being deployed on Israeli airspace when everyone knows that you've been using cluster munitions in Gaza and also in Lebanon, right? 8 people were killed in the process, by the way, and 95 were wounded in the attack on the B1 bridge in Karaj, according to the Iranian state media. And of course, our organs of propaganda are running defense for it. The New York Times reports that the bridge was struck in Iran was part of a planned military supply route for sustaining Iran's ballistic missile and attack drone force. That's fucking bullshit. Okay? That's complete bullshit. It's complete horseshit. U.S. forces struck the B-1 bridge in Iran on Thursday, eliminating a planned military supply route for sustaining Iran's ballistic missile and attack drone force, a U.S. military official said. The officials spoke on condition of anonymity to share operational details. Stenographers. The New York Times is running defense for it. Here is Sayed Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran, who says striking civilian structures, including unfinished bridges, will not compel Iranians to surrender. It only conveys the defeat and moral collapse of an enemy in disarray. Every bridge and building will be built back stronger. What will never recover is the damage to America's standing. I mean, I don't know what to say about this other than we are posterizing our war crimes. We're telling the rest of the world that we are an uncontrollable, belligerent, rogue entity. There is a reason why people abide by the standards of war, right? You don't kill diplomats, for example. You don't shoot the messenger, right? It's a cliche. America had Abbas Araghchi on a strike list, on an assassination list that they took him off of. They ended up trying to assassinate a former diplomat, as a matter of fact. Israel's been doing this. Israel wages war like this all the time, and that's part of the reason why a lot of people have developed enmity towards Israel, because they're like, what the fuck are you doing? You only get away with this if you are the permanent domineering superpower. It's ironic to do this right now when your status as the domineering superpower is maybe no longer the case, right? You're no longer the dominant superpower. You're no longer the hegemonic superpower, and you're still behaving like this. A country that did this was Nazi Germany. Israel's been behaving like Nazi Germany, and now America is increasingly behaving like Nazi Germany. One could even say America has behaved like Nazi Germany in the past as well. But something is different here. Because in the past, when America was doing this kind of thing to other countries in Afghanistan, in Iraq, right? Those countries did not have the capability of fighting back. Those countries did not have the capability of delivering incredible damage to the confidence that people had in the American force projection capabilities. Iran has been able to successfully achieve that, right? So for America to turn around and desperately try to create more collateral, try to assassinate as many civilians as possible, is only going to further solidify that they don't have that capability any longer. Eventually, this is going to have to come to an end. The rest of the world is going to inevitably say, all right, enough is enough. You have to pack this up. when they realize that America does not have that capability any longer, when it's all but when it's impossible to ignore, eventually the world has to bring us to heel. The U.S. has always done this shit. Be real, not to this degree, and not against an enemy that is capable of disrupting the rest of the world's oil supply. The amount of control that America had during shock and awe and in the aftermath of shock and awe in Iraq is nothing like what's going on right now. All of the destruction in Iraq and all of the instability born out of the American invasion of Iraq was directly a consequence of America's lack of interest in keeping Iraq a stable institution. They only protected the only ministry that America actually protected was the Ministry of Energy, okay? Because they had one singular goal in mind. That was to protect the assets. That was to take over the assets and control the extraction industries of Iraq. They're not doing that right now. They're blowing up oil refineries. Israel already blew up oil refineries, right? Like this is totally new from that perspective. And not only are they doing all of this, like not only are they committed to just like doing terrorism for the sake of terror, which is somewhat new. There's not like any sort of discernible strategic military objective here other than just killing people. But yeah, it's very Israel style. IRGC bridge, IRGC hospital, IRGC guy who fills out a spreadsheet to order more water jugs, IRGC building inspector, IRGC park, IRGC girls school, IRGC air conditioning efficiency study, IRGC Indian guy running a merchant ship cafeteria. This is the same shit that Israel did with Hamas. Everything is Hamas. Everything is Hamas. Everything is Hamas. Oh, that mosque? It's Hamas. Oh, that school that we blew up? It's Hamas. Those little schoolgirls? Also Hamas. They had a copy of Mein Kampf that we found, right? Like they did that. This is what Israel did. And this is what America's doing right now. It's not going to work. A U.S. official tells me that the bridge was attacked because it was used by Iranian armed forces to try and secretly move missile and missile parts from Tehran to launch sites in western Iran. Yeah. Yeah, I saw Trump's strategy for the midterms. We're going to talk about that in a second. Anyway. Galabaf wrote this. He says, listen up. Back when I was 18 years old, I grabbed my rifle and ran straight into the fight to defend the soil of my beloved, unbreakable Iran, the only home I ever knew. My own brother Hasan, he laid it all on the line in that same fight for our homeland. He never came home. To this day, I still ache to wrap my arms around him one more time. That kind of pain never leaves a man. And he wasn't the only one. I lost brothers who weren't blood, but were family just the same. Men who fought like lions and became part of me forever. But that's what we do. We give everything we've got for the land we love. We poured out our youth, our blood, and every tomorrow we had for Iran. We are not warmongers. But when the time comes to defend our homeland, every last one of us becomes a soldier. Right now, in less than a week, a powerful national campaign sweeping across the country has brought forward around 7 million Iranians who have already stepped up and declared they're ready to pick up arms and stand in defense of our nation. Let me tell you something straight from the gut. Iranians don't just talk about defending their country. We bleed for it. We've done it before, and we're ready to do it again. You come for our home, you're going to meet the whole family, locked, loaded, and standing tall. Bring it on. Is targeting basic civilian infrastructure not just blatant terrorism and war crimes? Are we the baddies? Yes, we've always been the baddies. That's the irony here. We've been the baddies, but what a lot of people don't understand, and this goes back to my criticism of like neocons or like the way that the Trump administration has weighed the propaganda campaign of the neocons, is that they say, we're not engaging in nation building here, right? We don't want to do regime change wars. We don't want to engage in nation building. The irony is that wasn't the point of the global war on terror either, right? So it's idiotic to make that assessment. That was just marketing. So unless you personally, literally thought that, Donald Rumsfeld had any sort of ambition of creating a stable Iraq and democratizing Iraq by force, unless you truly believed that narrative, you understood that was just marketing. So the Trump administration and Pete Hegseth and all these other spokespersons for the Trump administration in this war that we're waging with Iran have decided not to do that marketing, right? But in the absence of that marketing, in the absence of making a convincing argument that they have WMDs, making a convincing argument as to why this unimaginably expensive and bloody endeavor has to be conducted, because there's some sort of like moral goal at the end of this, right? People are just going to realize that you are just a tyrant. You're a bloodthirsty bully. And that's what's really interesting about how the Trump administration is conducting itself. They operate like they genuinely believe that the neocons wanted to liberalize Iraq and didn't simply want their oil or simply want to dominate them, right? My point is, there is a purpose for claiming that you're spreading democracy when you don't really have that ambition. So when you drop that part and come across as sincere about your goals, about your objectives, as Trump is doing, right? Saying the quiet part out loud. Sure, some people will look at that and go, yeah, that makes sense to me. I like killing Iranians. I think it's cool that we're blowing up their bridges. I think it's cool that we're, doing terrorism, right? I don't care about winning hearts and minds. It's different. I like it, right? But when you say the quiet part out loud, a lot more people are going to hear what you're saying and go, I don't like that. That sounds insane. That sounds like you're doing terrorism. And that's where we're at right now. For many Americans, it was easier to understand that Israel was behaving like a terrorist country because Israel, they thought, was a foreign country. The final piece of that puzzle is for Americans to recognize that we might be the terrorist country as well. Because we are.
7 months and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing. The brilliance of the United States military.
Yeah, no, that's what everyone is saying. They're like, how brilliant. How fucking brilliant, dude. Philip Lemoyne says, once again, it's hilarious how the U.S. bombed civilian infrastructure with the obvious goal of pressuring the Iranian leadership into making a deal, but the supporters of the stupidity instantly go into defense mode and twist themselves into a pretzel to argue that it was motivated by military necessity, only for Trump to come out and basically tweet, you better make a deal soon before your country has been turned into a wasteland. I mean, he's saying it. Like, this is Osama bin Laden shit, right? When you can't achieve your military goals by waging regular warfare, you do the Israel method and you go the death and destruction route. You don't even consider what comes after that. You don't consider what you're doing to the international rule-based order, which has favored your dominance in perpetuity, right? Like, this is another part of the process that I think a lot of these guys don't understand. If you wanted to be a warmonger and if you wanted to be the hegemonic superpower, then liberals are right. You have to sell that. You have to sell that to other people. When you say the quiet part out loud and you say, no, this is empire shit. We're villains. And you don't try to massage the narrative. You don't try to tell people why you're doing this, why there's a good reason for why you're blowing up fucking bridges and shit, right? Eventually, there's going to be so much enmity that people actually take up arms. European leadership went through appeasement with Nazi Germany, if we recall, right? There was a period where Europe was like, okay, maybe we'll just give them what they want and they'll stop, right? But it got to a point where it was undeniable that Nazi Germany's expansionist ambitions were going to take over the entirety of the European continent. And that's when they decided, all right, we have to do a coalition of the willing. We have to put an end to this. We have to militarily stop this. Now, of course, in the age of nukes, the calculation is different. But the reality of the matter is, us alongside Israel are the current Nazi Germany country, but this time with nukes. We have to put an end to this. We have to stop. These guys genuinely don't believe that the U.S. benefits from U.S.-led world order, though. The right sees it as constraining and a waste of time and money, even though it benefits them. Same reason why they hate soft power initiatives, even though they objectively make empire more stable and effective. I think the insincere liberal method of justifying American hegemony was the more successful one, and that's why it reigned supreme, even in the hands of reactionary neocons when they were waging the global war on terror. It reigned supreme for a good reason, because it was successful. It convinced a lot of people. Okay? Sure, we could say they're stupid, but at least there was an effort to convince them, right? Now there is no effort to convince them. Now you got Donald Trump basically saying, speaking out of both sides of his mouth, basically saying the quiet part out loud at times, and then at other times he'll try to commit to a real reason for why we're doing all this, right? But I don't think he's capable of convincing people at all. Eventually, when enough people realize that America is the villain in the story, they're going to want to put an end to it. They're going to demand an end to it. Just as in the immediate aftermath of October 7, the pro-Palestinian protest movements were small. They were marginal. They were bullied. There was a lot of pressure. People bastardized what they were trying to explain to people. And they said, oh, you guys are pro-Hamas. You want, Jews to die. You're anti-Semitic. And then that protest movement grew and grew and grew. And now people understand that the bad guys in that equation were always Israel. The same thing will eventually happen for America as well. Okay? That's it.
Tonight, every American can look forward to a day when we are finally free from the wickedness of Iranian aggression and the specter of nuclear blackmail. Because
what the heck are you talking about? The rest of the world and what army? This is American entitlement and American exceptionalism. The idea that the rest of the world can't apply diplomatic pressure, trade pressure to the United States of America, that America can be truly independent after the United States of America designed this global system that benefited the United States of America for fucking decades, is idiotic. You're brain dead. The only reason why this hasn't happened thus far is because for the longest time, while we were conducting these wars of choice, these following along with these imperial desires, we made a convincing case as to everyone else also getting a piece of the pie to a certain degree. The European vassals were going to benefit from the system as well, and they did, certainly, right? And we at least tried to appeal to people's sensibilities, try to convince them that it was good that we were the world police. Now we're not even doing that. We're not doing that at all. My point is, people are eventually going to look at America very differently than they have thus far. What happens when all that pressure mounts? What happens when the demands are being made by middle powers in Europe, for example, from the populations to decouple from the United States of America? America's power, America's hegemonic superpower status is kept together by its military might, which has taken a devastating blow, right? In the last 33 days. We can't even dominate a country that we've been able to wage economic warfare against. They control the Strait of Hormuz. But also on top of that, it's propped up by the complex system that we have created around the world that we control. a system that we guarantee with our military, a system that says there will always be free flowing commerce in these choke points. We control the seas. You will always get your oil. Your energy grid is never going to be threatened. But now the energy grid is threatened. Now, capital has to withdraw from certain areas, or they get blown up because they're in missile striking distance. That puts a dent in the goals of the profit seekers, right? That harms profits. If profit centers are under imminent threat, it creates market instability. And also on top of that, it harms profit margins. And you can't have that. If America can't provide that, if America can't guarantee safety and security for the rest of the world, then why should it be the fucking number one superpower? For the most part, the U.S. also keeps local elites happy. In the poorest countries, the most corruption, U.S.-led economic and security model keeps the elites in place and is beneficial for their short-term financial power, even though they are not to broader economic development. Trump's just fucking up every bag at once. Exactly. The very same attitude shift that took place over the course of the last month with European leaders basically salivating at the prospect of punishing Iran, right? Dominating Iran, taking out this like sovereign state that has been a foreign adversary, a thorn on the side of Western imperialism for 47 years. That attitude changed quite quickly, right? And dramatically. Now they're all terrified. They're delivering their own individual states of the unions. They're saying, oh, you know, we gotta get ready for major economic shocks, major uncertainty in the upcoming days. They're openly defying America as Donald Trump demands full cooperation from NATO allies. NATO allies are saying, no, we're not going to do that. You're out of your fucking mind, right? That same attitude was also demonstrated by the Gulf states, at least some of them. There's a Financial Times report that I read on this from Saudi attitudes that have turned completely against the United States of America. MBS was saying, look, if Israel's going to go in, America might as well go in alongside Israel. Maybe you don't touch their energy infrastructure, because then that means they'll blow up our energy infrastructure. That hurts our stability, right? But, you know, take out their missile systems and it'll be fine. That was the attitude from MBS early on, before this started, right? The hubris, the audacity, the assumption that Israel would have any restraint whatsoever. So stupid. Now the Saudis have recognized that that's not the case, and that Israel actually doesn't even care if the Gulf states diminish, if the Gulf states are destroyed. So now they're desperate for an off-ramp. Now they're demanding the off-ramp. Might be too late.
Because of the actions we have taken, we are on the cusp of ending Iran's sinister threat to America and the world. And I'll tell you, the world is watching. And when we do, when it's all over, the United States will be safer, stronger, more prosperous, and greater than it has ever been before. May God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, and good night.